the right stuff for the future science economy in Hong Kong SAR. Professor Quentin Parker, Director of the Lab for Space Research, the University of Hong Kong, will be addressing this question.
香港特别行政区未来科学经济的正确之选，香港大学太空研究实验室总监𝗏坤廷教授，有请。
Mr. Parker, please.
Thank you. I must say that previous talk, it was a very fine thread of very high quality material weaving its way through the NewSpace Economy. So, little play on words there. But anyway, can we have the first slide? That's it. Great. Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks everybody for hanging around till the end of what's been a very interesting and exciting day. I've certainly learnt a lot, made a lot of new friends and colleagues. And so this is the penultimate talk, and I'm going to be talking about tomorrow's technology today, preparing the next opportunities in the dawning of the NewSpace economy. Next slide, please. And we can go to the next slide. So do we have the right stuff in our great city of Hong Kong and even in the Greater Bay Area? So that's what I'm going to be addressing today. I'm also Vice Chairman of OASA and also CEO and founder of 𝗏𝗏. And in fact, it was interesting, all three booths were next to each other, OASA next to the LSR, next to 𝗏𝗏, so I could just move up and down really conveniently. So thank you, Tom, if that's what you organised that on purpose. Anyway, the right stuff. I mean, you've heard of the right stuff phrase. It came out of the American space program and the incredibly hard training that people needed to undergo to become an astronaut. And so the question is, does Hong Kong have what it takes? Can we grab the opportunities that are emerging at a rapid rate? And can we play a more than significant role in the new space economy in the GBA and further afield? Next slide, please. I don't actually have the presentation on the screen, so I have to keep looking back here. So I hope that's okay. So right stuff for the future science economy. I'm focusing on the emerging opportunities here in high-tech industries in the GBA, the smart cities infrastructure that's being put in place and which will be there in the northern metropolis when it gets built, the burgeoning space ecosystems, which you've heard so much about today, including from OASA, and the STEM-focused perspective that permeates through everything. I'm going to explain the need, why STEM is important. We've already heard that today from many of our speakers, including Paul Hodgson. The issue of entrepreneurship and astropreneurship, a term that's been coined here, I think, and it's very important to understand what it means in terms of the competencies required so that the people of Hong Kong, our young minds especially, can take animated advantage and ownership of the uprising space economy. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the LSR first. I'm the director of something called the Laboratory for Space Research. It's been around since 2017. We have 3 mission statements at the LSR. We have a wonderful website in English and in traditional and simplified Chinese. One of the few places at Hong Kong U that does that on their website. Anyway, our mission, to emerge as a leading interdisciplinary research center in space and planetary sciences in the Asian region with a strong brand and identity. Next slide, please. Second statement, to maintain and grow the LSR to be an internationally recognized brand for research excellence. We're not an engineering department, we're a research faculty and a research group, but we have very strong connections into the engineering. And to be research excellence in mainstream space science and related programs. And the final mission statement, next slide please, is to strengthen and develop our ties to the mainland space program, which has been going gangbusters, as you've heard, for the last few years. And also globally. We're very open to international collaboration across the board. Okay, next slide, please. So we have, in fact, launched a satellite in collaboration with Nanjing University, the strongest mainland university with a space science and astrophysics group. And there it is. It's called the Lobster-Eye X-ray telescope. It's a science mission designed to look for a signal in neutrino decay that might have an X-ray signal that could be indicative of a dark matter presence. Unfortunately, it was the first. So Hong Kong UST claimed the first. Unfortunately, they're wrong. It was us back in July 2020 that launched this from Taiwan in west of Beijing. But it was in collaboration with Nanjing University. And it was a huge leverage. The mission was 165 million renminbi. Our contribution was 9 million. Nanjing's contribution was 14 million. The rest is called leverage from the mainland space program. Anyway, next slide, please. So, Hong Kong U and indeed other universities in our city, Chinese University of Hong Kong, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, City U, and you've heard a lot about PolyU, with a very strong program of technology and engineering for the Chang'e missions and the Martian mission, the Tiangong rover, is that we have in our city, as you've already heard, 5 universities in the global top 100, in a city of less than 8 million. We have 3 in the top 50 in the world, including my own University of Hong Kong U. Now, this is nothing short of a tertiary education superpower for a city of our size, and so we should recognize that, value it, cherish it, preserve it, and maintain it, for not just for the Hong Kong SAR, but also for the GBA and also China as a whole. Okay, next slide, please. So this is just some of the partners that the LSR has been able to manage to create and engage with over the last few years. So I think partnerships, astutely chosen partnerships, not partnerships just to say, I've got a bit of paper with an MOU and I put it away in my drawer and it stays there gathering dust for the next 20 years. No, partnerships have true meaning. Partnerships are going to deliver something for us. And so these are some of the ones we have. You notice their Natural History Museum. They have one of the best they have one of the best meteorite collections in the whole of the world. And we have a very strong group in Department of Earth Sciences affiliated to the LSR under Dr. Joe Michalski, who actually was the first non-Chinese person to win a 10-cent Explorer Prize, which you may have heard about recently. And also, of course, we've got Moonrock into Hong Kong U, and we hope to collaborate very strongly with PolyU in this area. Okay, next slide, please. So the space science and technology industry and NewSpace are inherently interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinarity, difficult word to say late in the afternoon, is part of the Hong Kong U's mantra of 3+1 I's, which is internationalization, innovation, interdisciplinarity, all combining together for impact. So this is the Hong Kong U's mantra. We still have it, and it's not more true than it is for NewSpace, because NewSpace incorporates so many things, not just lunar and planetary sciences and physics and astrophysics, and then of course space resources, but also space geosciences and space weather, remote sensing, telecommunications, TV, internet, etc. we just heard in the last talk, and sophisticated engineering and technology advances. All of these things combine together to create part of the new space economy that's emerging. All of this requires the right stuff to succeed. Without the right stuff, without the talent emerging and coming through, none of this will work. We can't deliver it, so we need it. Okay, next slide, please. So just to give you some global context, you heard from Greg earlier that by the end of this decade, the global space economy should be worth about $1 trillion US. We're about halfway there at the moment, and it's burgeoning, it's growing, and a lot of the data that's coming out of all the satellites in space, and there are thousands of them now, are creating ones and zeros that can convert it into images and sound, and important hyperspectral data for doing all sorts of incredibly important things that can be monetized. And that's where the new space economy is burgeoning. So new space refers to the emergence of the private space industry, as we know. New space ventures are becoming more common. They're spanning areas such as private launch companies, and we have the Wenchang private launch center being set up in Hainan Island, not far from here. Small satellite constellations, of which there are hundreds and hundreds of them being planned and already up there. And even eventually, in terms of suborbital tourism and hotels in space, etc. Next slide, please. So where can Hong Kong SAR fit into the space sector value chain? Well, one, do we need to develop and execute complete space missions here in this city? From initial concept to hardware design, manufacturing and testing, to in-orbit operation controlled by our own spacecraft mission operation ground station, do we need to be able to do all of these things here in our city? Not straight away, and certainly not now. We don't need to do these things. These things can be done much more cheaply, generally speaking, over the border in the GBA. We can be the brains, we can have the design, we can do the testing, we can have the funneling of vast amounts of funding through JVs, IPOs, etc. into this system, but we don't necessarily need to do all these things here. I think they will come. I think companies like Hong Kong Aerospace Technology Group are leading the way here, but there are other companies too. But we don't need to do all things straight away. We can build a solid ground and framework and infrastructure to grow into this, but we can still excel in other kinds of areas in terms of the brains that we have and the talent that's emerging. Next slide, please. So, of course, we're now, hopefully, I believe, in the post-COVID world, although COVID variants keep cropping up, and our future is increasingly dependent on what we're doing in the rapidly emerging space economy, because the large amounts of data that we use across our daily lives come now from satellites. If all the satellites in space suddenly cease to function, most people's social lives would also cease to function straight away, because we wouldn't be able to do anything with our mobile phones anymore. And so we'd have to resort to doing a landline. Oh no, there's hardly any landlines left. Oh, we'd have to go back to paper posts. That doesn't work very well anymore. So anyway, so much is now of our lives are incorporated, encapsulated within satellite data. It's pretty scary that if the 𝗧𝗄𝘅 syndrome comes in, which is where cascading debris in space, which already is vast numbers of it, from small to very large, starts crashing into each other, it becomes a self-fulfilling cascading effect that destroys the entire low Earth orbit environment, so we can't do anything. So we keep putting up constellations and thousands of satellites, but we need companies, technologies, and industries to start taking stuff out of space, or else we're not going to have an environment to work with. Anyway, that hasn't really been raised today, so I thought I'd mention that because it's really super important. We need to cure the 𝗧𝗪 syndrome to have a viable space environment in low Earth orbit. Okay, anyway, we'll be more operating a sophisticated smart city, Internet of Things, AI, and deep learning and machine learning ecosystems. They're going to be ever more reliant on data in all of its incredible forms of ones and zeros that are coming from all the satellites in space. So this is commercial and social decision making to the fore, and across globally distributed networks of cyber-connected teams. Okay, and it's going to affect millions of people. I'm going to ignoring that 5-minute sign. I'm going to take as much time as I need, like everybody else has. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, talent in the post-COVID world. In a post-COVID world, different work realities are coming. A lot of people now working remotely, and they can do that effectively because they have powerful internet technologies which are now Zooms and video to work without problems usually, and to be able to do that effectively and connect to all your technology remotely. Okay, but finding the right stuff is actually the key to making all of this work, which however you're working, whether it's remotely, in an office, in a university, in a company, or, you know, on the production line, whatever it is, finding the right stuff and developing the competencies that are needed to make a difference in a very quickly evolving, very rapidly developing and technology-rich environment is going to be key. Once you've identified that talent, using it wisely is also key to locking the opportunities when it comes knocking. In this city, I've discovered that people are opportunity shy. You may have 5 opportunities, but they're scared to take those opportunities in case it's a mistake or in case they make a mistake with that opportunity. So maybe I'll just leave that opportunity to a while. Maybe I saw the gold on the table. I wanted to grab it. I couldn't. Oh, maybe there's somebody behind the door with a big mallet going to hit me. So I'm not going to go into that room and grab that gold I can see on that table. Let's have a committee meeting. Have a committee meeting to discuss the opportunity. Okay, we should bring in that group as well. They need to come in, so we'll bring them as well. And you can bring in this other group, and you will have all these meetings after a time. Okay, great. We're going to go in, and we're going to grab that gold off that table in that room, and they go up to the room, but the door's closed. Sorry, opportunity is gone. Opportunity is fleeting. Can you recognize it, and can you grab it, and can you risk it? Risk aversion is another problem. We need to be less risk averse. We need to take our chances, recognize the opportunity and grab it, because if we don't, somebody else will. If you have 5 opportunities and they're all risky and you grab none of them because you're scared of failure, then nothing happens. You grab the 5, 2 work. Who cares about the other 3? It doesn't matter. It's forgotten. You've got 2 successes. That's what matters. Okay, next slide, please. So, talent without borders. Next slide, please. Okay, our world-class education system that we have here in Hong Kong and developing NGOs like OASA and companies like Hong Kong Aerospace Technology Group, AdaSpace, Silkworm, etc. can be valuable local conduits of the right stuff. They can be talent production lines in a rapidly emerging environment. But, as I said, can we recognize this talent and can we use it properly? Can we support and develop it correctly? Can we use it wisely? And can we help ensure the talent creates opportunity and opportunity captures the talent? Okay, next slide. So one thing we did at 2 minutes, thank you, which I'm expanding in sort of time dilation. As an astrophysicist, I'm allowed to use time dilation to expand that out to at least 5. But anyway, Business Economy for Space Technology was a program we ran at Hong Kong U with OASA, and it was a fantastic program. It engaged 23 local high schools with great teams to come up with ideas for CubeSats. But one thing we did, we said you cannot have a team of computer scientists or a team of engineers or a team of physicists. No, you have to have an interdisciplinary team. You have to have in that team a designer. You have to have somebody in business, an entrepreneur. You have to have somebody, yes, that's going to be the leader. You have to have a scientist, a computational guy. So that's how we created our teams, and that's what gave us the value. And we had some absolutely amazing results out of that, and we're going to run that program again. PolyU also ran a very successful program like that last year as well, and OASA was involved. We were involved in that too. So anyway, next slide, please. So training the talent is key. Early on-the-job orientated training methods via work placements, internships, scholarships, etc. can recognize and identify that talent early, and then you get them early, then do they become loyal to your company, and then you can use them if you look after them. Knowledge-based methods, universities, online courses, experience in post, etc. all important. They're very, very important, and training and competency development helps companies attract and retain the top talent, increase work satisfaction, morale, improve productivity, and earn more profit for the company. So it's actually in the company's best interests to identify and retain talent, and through early incubation programs for it. Okay, next slide, please. So we have a very robust internship program at the University of Hong Kong in the Laboratory for Space Research. As you can see, we started off small in 2016, and this year we're up to 24 interns. We don't advertise, it's all just word of mouth, and we can't actually take them anymore. We've reached saturation point. You know, we're all doing this for free. All these interns that come in to the LSR, my postdocs and PhD students, myself and others, RAPs, all look after these interns of undergraduate students, high school students, international students come in. We try to teach them and mentor them and train them and help them become the talent of tomorrow, which they are. Okay, so I encourage all companies here to consider having an internship program in their companies to recognize and nurture talent. It'll pay off. Next slide, please. Okay, so accommodating talent is really important. So establishment of Hong Kong SAR branch universities in GBA is happening. So all universities now setting up, our top universities are setting up branches over the border in the GBA. Even Hong Kong U, the last university to do so, is setting one up in Shenzhen. It's a bit of a hiatus for that at the moment. I hope it continues and goes forward. Anyway, the intent with this for all of these universities, create a seamless, integrated Hong Kong U, straddling both sides of the border across the GBA, where educational benefits spread across the entire GBA and more broadly, giving Hong Kong U's higher international reputation. Cross-border STEM talent incubator is the aim. Time's up. No, it isn't. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, funding schemes. Scientific and technological mainland cooperation is happening more regularly in ever more diverse, exciting, and sophisticated ways to mutual benefit. Provides enhanced progress as communities work more closely together. That's really good. Partnerships grow via generous funding schemes which are available now to the University of Hong Kong into the mainland for the first time, and so we're trying to take advantage of those. Of course, we have our own schemes in Hong Kong U2, like the 𝗖𝗪 Foundation, etc. And of course, the Chinese Academy of Sciences is being very generous in its schemes. Next slide, please. Coupled with opening up to Hong Kong-based researchers, as I said, these direct R&D programs in the mainland are very valuable, and we need to make more use of them, and we're starting to. And they are also talent incubators and for ideas. Next slide, please. Okay, opportunities. It's all about opportunities. Next slide, please. So the new reality is that, as you've heard today, things are changing extremely rapidly in the new space area. There's a global movement. It's going to be worth $1 trillion in a few years, and the satellite industry is going crazy, but they need to have the regulation that isn't there. There's no globally really regulated framework to control everything people are putting up into space. If we don't control it, the 𝗧𝗍𝗪 syndrome will control it for us. So anyway, you see all these capabilities, from improved capability, innovative application of small satellites and these CubeSat constellations, innovative post-launch deployment services, new satellite services, economic growth, all these things are part of the ecosystem that's emerging, but things are changing quickly, but change brings opportunity. Next slide, please. So, China, you know, we heard stories, oh, China is emerging as a space power. I disagree. China is already a space power and has been for several years already. It's now a major space power. Not a player, a major player in space in the world. You only have to look at the Chang'e missions to the moon, the successful missions to Mars, the incredible space station, the new space telescope that's going up next year, which I want to use, etc., and the plans for a moon base. This is all happening rapidly before our eyes. Anyway, so looking figuratively and literally up at all the successes over the last couple of years in my area of space science clearly demonstrates capacity, innovation, and achievement in all those things I just said. Next slide, please. So, opportunities. What can Hong Kong play in this role? One, we are a global fintech and finance powerhouse, where Hong Kong's special administrative region outperforms other mainland cities in this way, and indeed most other cities in the world of the same kind. It's based on a robust, internationally respected and globally leading regulatory and compliance framework for banking and investment infrastructure, including expertise in space law, which we have here, also at the University of Hong Kong. So with all of this, we're very well placed to facilitate major capital investments based around an effectively free market. I think that's where the biggest changes and things will come, through using the fintech and compliance and regulatory framework to funnel investment capital into new space startups in this city. We have strong talent incubators, as I said, within our globally elite tertiary education sector, which is world leading. As I said, it's a mini superpower in tertiary education. We can generate the IP, the designs, the prototyping, the think tanks and sector consultancies, which are going to be so valuable as we emerge. And we are extremely internationally connected and respected still. So that gives us a demarcation with the mainland that's extremely valuable, as 𝗂𝗏 said. Okay, so we can reach out, we can engage up and collaborate with parties and nations that are a bit more difficult from mainland companies. Okay, next slide, please. Mainland space and planetary science are rapidly developing national strengths in key strategic areas of global importance. It's clear the mainland is very keen to engage with Hong Kong in this great national endeavour. And a few recent examples we heard about the Taikonauts, opportunities for Hong Kong, Macau, that's happening. New opportunities for tertiary education to apply for science payloads on the Chinese space station. Exciting recent development, we're getting access to Moon Rock in Hong Kong as a mainland gift. And also we have the potential of a 1 billion RMB satellite from the mainland, like Macau has a 675 million RMB satellite. Why can't Hong Kong, with 10 times the economy and 7 times the population, or is it the other way around? Anyway, do better than that? I think we can and we should. So, next slide, please. We are in a rapidly changing landscape. Fleeting opportunities now come and go more often. We need to strongly motivate a bolder government pivot to what is an increasingly important mainland strategic priority. We are lagging. We can get there. Entrepreneurial new space activity and government policy should dovetail more effectively, and this whole area is in desperate need of a positive overhaul. I'm hoping with the Chief Executive's policy address that's coming up on October the 25th that we will see a new pivot to the new space economy, and events like today, I hope, will create some impetus for that. Okay, so new space opportunities can inspire and train the next generation of students, scientists, technologists, and astropreneurs to contribute to the long-term social and high technology development capacity of not just the SAR in Hong Kong, but the GBA. Next slide, please. So, opportunities beckon. Next slide, please. I'm running out of time. Smart cities, we've heard about that. How much time have I got left, Cynthia? Minus how many minutes? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what I'm going to finish on is a kind of a map here. You see where Hong Kong is, Macau. Dongguan is kind of the geographic center of a circle of 100 kilometers around which there are 20 universities. And the top ones are in our city, okay? But those universities all have talent in them, all have talent that can be deployed in the new space economy. Okay, and it's incredibly, the reason I mentioned Dongguan, it's got our International High Energy Physics, so Institute for High Energy Physics, 𝗬𝗍 headquarters, neutron spallation source, etc. So it's got a lot of high tech there, and we're kind of within the circle and the top universities to help support all of these things and more. Next slide, please. So, in summary, unlike other worthy areas, of which there are many, space, planetary sciences, astrophysics, and exciting new opportunities of the new space economy actually elicit a lot of public interest. People like to see stuff happening in space and with satellites and with the Chinese space station, etc. And this creates interest in STEM. So this is evidenced by our own Business Economy for Space Technology CubeSat program and PolyU's equivalent last year in local schools, but also very keen attention given to the moon, to Mars, and other Chinese-led space exploration activities. So we hope our city's growing new space activities in particular, including the PR footprints of our university space missions and the companies that are emerging, and hopefully increased government recognition and support, will lead to policy changes at the top. So greater government interest, investment, and so jobs in what is an incredibly important and burgeoning sector is hoped for. We can and should play a greater role, especially given some of the unique advantages, as I've already said, our great city offers. Next slide, please. So this is my final slide. I promise there's no more slides after this. Our place in the GBA and incorporation into its broad ecosystem, i.e. in plans for the Northern Metropolis, for example, will actually depend on recognizing and seizing opportunities for global and mainland cooperation. These are almost limitless for Hong Kong scientists, researchers, technologists, STEM-orientated entrepreneurs, astropreneurs, and our companies, and this is no more so than in the emerging new space ecosystem. There's never been a better environment, I don't believe, to reach out, join up, and work together for the mutual benefit and shared prosperity via the proving ground that the GBA offers. This is for all sorts of smart city technology infrastructure initiatives over the coming decade. All this is underpinned by a truly world-class tertiary education system that is ever more integrated, connected, and open to talent in all its diverse forms as incubators for ideas, innovation, integration, and generation of the right stuff. Thank you very much.